Welcome to the AE Hoops Podcast.
Rebound comes out to Hooley for the win.
With special guest Jameel Warney.
The tip is no good, and the Seawolves are going to the big dance.
Oh, my goodness! Sorrentine hit that one from the parking lot, and Vermont has a 59-55 lead.
Now, here are your hosts, Sam Schwartz and Jared Hager.
Welcome to the AE Hoops Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Schwartz, and we are pleased to be joined this week by a three-time America East Player of the Year, one of the best players in conference and Stony Brook history, who is currently with the Texas Legends of the NBA D-League. Happy to welcome Jameel Warney. Jameel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's start with this. Stony Brook announced recently that they'll retire your jersey, number 20. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me. Great 4 years there. Met a lot of great people. Had a great experience there. Obviously, we won the championship my last year there, so it was a great way to have a happy ending.
Coach Bowles, in his first year with the program, obviously you didn't play for him, but we see from Twitter that you're still very involved with the program. Jameel, how has it been for you trying to keep tabs on the program and former teammates since you graduated?
It's not that hard. I mean, I'm really close with most of them. This is a family environment. I've been with them for like 3 to 4 years now, so I know all of them. So it's great to just see how they're improving over the years out with them and see how they're having fun this year. They're playing on a new system with the new coach, but they're having really had a lot of fun, and it's great to just see this.
You are an entertaining follow on Twitter. I'll give you that. Ladies and gentlemen, you can follow him at Full Course Meals on Twitter. And Jameel, sticking with your alma mater, your Seawolves, they're 5-1 in conference play so far this season. Some people have been surprised by the success after losing guys like you, Trey Purifoy, Rayshawn McGrew. Are you personally surprised at their success?
Oh, no, I'm not surprised. I mean, these guys improved every year that they've been here. I mean, it's all about improvement at Stony Brook. So it's just people stepping into new roles, trusting their new system. And I knew that since I've done the court with them, that they improved every time, every year. So it's no surprise to me that they're surprising people with such a good start. I mean, if we miss 4 of your top scorers last year, it's going to be changes. So it kind of scared people to probably take Stony Brook at the top of the leaderboard. But it's fine. I mean, they're good with being an underdog, and now they're getting the respect that they deserve.
Are there a couple guys on this team that you played with that you can kind of attribute that success to, stepping into those scoring roles?
I mean, everyone's stepping up, but you got to give it to Lucas. He's making everyone better. Tyrell is really surprising people with how efficient and just the willingness he just scoring and what he's doing right now. So it's good that those two guys are just playing out of this world right now. But you got to give up to everyone else. The Cunders hitting threes, the Rollins doing what Roland always does. Cannon's being that scrappy guy he always is, and it's just everyone just chipping in and just it's contribution from everywhere.
All right, let's talk about your path since graduation. You got invited to the NBA pre-draft camp. You might be a little disappointed that you weren't drafted, but you did catch on with the Mavericks training camp. Can you just take us through the whole experience as you pursue your NBA dream?
I mean, after I didn't get drafted, I went to summer league with the Mavericks. I played well enough to get a training camp invite. Unfortunately, injuries and just numbers didn't add up for me to make the final roster spot. But I'm here now in the D League in Frisco, Texas, having fun, getting better, meeting new people, and it's just a great experience for me. Just trying to get back or trying to get into the NBA.
What's the whole experience been like playing for the Texas Legends and kind of, switching levels and also locations after graduating?
It's different. I mean, different from being away from home. It's kind of real well now. I'm living on my own. I have a lot of downtime since there's no more academic stuff for me. So it's great like that, meeting new people, just a new system, just getting treated more as a professional now instead of like an amateur in college.
Is there a difference in the style of play that you see, or maybe one specific thing that's most notable between college basketball and NBA D-League basketball?
I mean, there's a lot of differences. A lot of good players. The speed is really quick. I mean, shorter shot clock, more space, and so it kind of helps the offensive side more than just a lot of good players. You just see, you're surprised by it. And you're just a whole bunch of good players trying to get to one spot.
Engage and stay connected with America East through its social media channels, including Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat. America East is the source for all your social media needs. All right, welcome back to the AE Hoops podcast. This brings us to our second segment of the week, which we like to call Frede's 4. That brings us Eric Frede every week, almost 25 years of experience covering America East hoops. Eric, once again, pleased as always.
That makes me sound Sam, that makes me sound and feel a little old when you put it in those terms. 25 years is a long time.
I think experience.
That means a lot of these guys weren't born. Yeah, all of these guys weren't born when I first started covering it. That's right.
Well, you know more than almost anybody then. I'll remind everybody of your Week 3 top 4. You had Vermont, Stony Brook, UMBC, and New Hampshire. That is, as it stands, the current situation of the standings: Vermont, Stony Brook, UMBC, New Hampshire. Let's get into it. Who tops your list this week in Frede's?
Well, I mean, I can't go against Vermont, can I, Sam? I mean, 23rd in the mid-major poll. They continue to roll along. They've won it 8 in a row, and I think because we knew last week, Sam, when we talked, that we didn't expect much movement in the top 4. I think we're going to see some movement after this week because there's some great games going on, led by the Vermont and Albany game. I mean, the Danes have put it together as we thought they would. They've won 3 in a row. And you talk about the history of the league over the last, I don't know how many years now, but that Vermont-Albany game has always been great. Albany's had the upper hand as of late. They've won 5 in a row in the series. David Nichols is really clicking right now, Player of the Week honors this week. So we've talked a lot about the depth of Vermont. It's really going to be tested against an Albany team that's played well. And this will be the biggest test for Vermont this season. I mean, you go back-to-back at Albany, at Stony Brook. So we'll find out a lot about this Vermont team this week. I think Albany has a great shot playing at home. They've been playing a lot better than they were a couple of weeks ago, not just because of the wins, but they've just been figuring it out like we knew they would. So Vermont's number 1. They will be put to the test, though, right out of the blocks with Albany on Wednesday and then at Stony Brook on Saturday.
You can catch both of those games on ESPN3, the Albany-Vermont game, Wednesday night at 7. Brings us to our number 2 team in your rankings. Eric, what do you got this week?
You know what? I am not going to penalize Stony Brook for a road loss against a very desperate Binghamton team. So I'm going to keep the Seawolves right there. It was just their first conference loss. Binghamton really needed a win, and they were due. So I'm going to keep Stony Brook in that number 2 spot, even though they're coming off a loss. But again, this is a Seawolves team that they keep developing that depth, and different guys have been stepping up. So I'll keep Stony Brook at number 2, but they'll have a couple of challenges this week. We already talked about the Albany matchup on Saturday, and they get UMBC on Wednesday.
Luckily, they are home for both of those games this week. 1-1 week for the Seawolves. But that game against Binghamton was a good one. Brian Secunda hit a late 3 to give them the lead with, I believe, under 25 seconds left. But then it was Timmy Rose for Binghamton who hit a huge 3 to give them the lead for good with about 19 seconds left. So Stony Brook stays at number 2 for you this week, and that brings us to number 3.
Oh, I'm going to keep UMBC at number 3, Sam, and here's why. I mean, they just have been impressive on the road. 4 road wins. They put 102 on the board at UMass Lowell. I don't think there's much of a difference between 2, 3, and 4 right now. I mean, I think you could make an argument that they could, anybody could be in that slot. They're that tight. But that UMBC at Stony Brook game on Wednesday, going to be a matchup of 2 great shooters, and Joe Sherburne for UMBC, Lucas Woodhouse, top 2 shooters actually when it comes to 3-point shooting. So I like what UMBC has done. They've hung in there a little bit. They've got 13 wins overall, 4-2 in the conference, tied for 3rd with UNH. So I'll keep UMBC right there. But again, I think we're going to have a lot of opportunity for things to get shifted around this week with all these great head-to-head matchups.
The Retrievers were down 3 to the Riverhawks on the road at the end of the first half. They scored 57 second-half points, including 12 from Rodney Elliott, who finished with a season-high 18. You mentioned the scores. Will Darley, another one of those guys, 18.8 points per game against America East opponents. That's 3rd in the conference.
Yeah, Sam, we talked about it last week, too. I think one of the more impressive things for UMBC was how they handled things at Vermont. I know that was a loss, and they followed that up with a lopsided loss to an Albany team that's coming on strong. But good bounce back on the road at UMass Lowell after losing to Albany. Number 4, I'm going to go with UNH. They've won 4 of 5. Jalen Smith finding his stride again. He's going to be in the conversation for Player of the Year in America East, rightly so. 27 points. Another road win for UNH. They've been outstanding on the road. They were up by 31 at one point at Hartford, won at 81-56. So the Wildcats hitting their stride. Now they're back home this week. They take on UMass Lowell. But I'll go with UNH right there at number 4. Albany and Lowell just out of the mix right now, but Albany certainly with an opportunity to play their way right back into things with a matchup against one of their great rivals coming up on Wednesday, and then on the road at Hartford on Saturday. So that's the 4 right now. Not much to change after this week's results, but when we talk in a week, I'd be shocked if we're not shuffling things around a little bit.
I'm with you there, Eric. Big games coming up this week. But for the first time during this podcast, you have not changed the power rankings. Vermont, Stony Brook, UMBC, and New Hampshire is what you got here in week 4 of conference play. And that
you can talk me out of that, Sam, if you want to. You can talk me out of that 1 through 4, but I think that's a pretty solid group right there.
Hey, I'm with you. But Albany and UMass Lowell chomping at the bit to get in there. So like you said, after these weeks, we'll see what happens. We have Vermont at Albany, UMBC at Stony Brook, the big games Wednesday night. Both of those you can catch on ESPN3. Then UNH goes to UMBC on Saturday, and Vermont will be at Stony Brook. That UNH-UMBC game will feature the top scoring offense in UMBC and the top scoring defense in New Hampshire, so that'll be a good one. Again, both of those on ESPN3.
And this is a great week too, Sam, because you finish out the first round of the schedule, of the 16-game conference schedule. You get to that 8th game, and then you kind of flip it around, and this is the time of year where it just seems there's one big game after another. Things move really quickly here. It helps us get through the doldrums of February. But this is when conference play really heats up, and it's the best time of the year, usually year after year.
This week could really spice things up a bit. Eric Frede, thank you as always. We'll talk to you in February.
All right. Talk to you next week. Thanks, Sam.
Are you a former America East student-athlete interested in staying connected with the conference, networking with other former student-athletes, professional development opportunities, and more? Find out more by searching for the America East Alumni Network on LinkedIn and request to join. All right, this brings us to our final segment, which is brought to you by the America East Alumni Network. One good story, Jameel Warney. You've got some serious experience in your young life so far. What's one good story that you can share with us?
I got to go after the championship game of just having fun with your teammates. I think we all stood up that night just enjoying the moment, being with each other. Next morning, and I just tiring, going to CBS, just enjoying that moment. Then the next day, going off to Iowa, and then meeting famous people like Grant Hale and Tracy Wolfson and Bill Rafferty. It's just a surreal experience, and just being in the tournament. That's a really good story and just embrace all that moments.
That's awesome. Your Seawolves, that was a heck of a ride last year, topping Vermont 2016 America East champions. Jameel Warney, we really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This has been the AE Hoops Podcast. Listen to more America East podcasts on the America East SoundCloud page and stay up to date on the latest America East news by visiting americaeast.com.